Welcome to RJI's podcast series hosted by RJI President Lisa Ray. Restorative Justice International is an association and network of over 6,000 members and affiliates. In this podcast series, Lisa interviews leaders from around the world who support restorative justice, including crime victims, ex-offenders, exonerees, and human rights experts. In these podcasts, you will hear from key thought leaders who support systemic justice reform based on restorative justice principles. Now here's Lisa Ray.
This is Lisa Ray with Restorative Justice International. Today's guest is Palestinian Bassam Aramin. Welcome, Bassam. So good to have you today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you are in Jericho City, is that correct?
Right.
Yes. And I first want to tell our guests that I met you through Robbie Damelin, who I know you work with in Israel, and that you're both a part of the Parent Circle Families Forum, correct?
Right.
Yeah. And so, Bassam, I know you're being interviewed so many places, and I did some research on you, and I realized that the interviews are everywhere, and they go back for so many years. Again, though, why don't you tell your story right now for those that are listening?
Briefly, I am a member of the Parent Circle Families Forum since the 16th of January 2007, after I lost my 10-year-old daughter, Abir, to an Israeli border police in front of her school with an American rubber bullet. She fell down, and 2 days later, she passed away. In fact, before that, I spent 7 years in the Israeli jails when I was 17 years old for what they call resisting the occupation. I was a kid. I was raising flags at night, of course. It was a crime at that time. It's up today. It's also crime. With a group of 5 kids, in fact, at the age of 13, we start to raise this flag as kind of protest against the Israeli soldiers or the strange occupation that we don't know why they come to our village. And we notice that they become very nervous and crazy when they see this flag. And I don't know why, but we use it in order to make them nervous and crazy. At the age of 16, we find some old weapons in a cave, and we don't know how to use it, but 2 of my friends throw 2 grenades on the Israeli soldiers, patrols in our village near Hebron. And of course, in that time, no one killed, no one injured, because they don't know how to use it in a professional way. And 1 year later, at the age of 17, all of us have been arrested. So the first one get 21 years in jail, 19, 15, 14, and I had 7 years. In jail, I learned that if you know your enemy, you can defeat him or you can kill him. If you only hate him, you will kill yourself. So in fact, it was like a wisdom for me. And I said, I want to kill my enemy and not myself. So I need to know my enemy. So in fact, I start to study Hebrew to know how to kill Robi or Rami in that time. And short time after that, I watched a movie about the Holocaust. It was by chance. For me, the Holocaust does not exist. I never hear anything about it. I don't know anything about it, like most of the Palestinians in that time. And the opposite, we believe like someone called Hitler killed 6 million Jewish people, but it's a big lie. Never happened. In fact, in spite it's a big lie, I want to enjoy seeing this movie, to see someone torture those Jews, kill them, arrest them, occupy them, because I am in their jails. It's very simple, the personal level. So what happened after a few minutes, suddenly I found myself crying. Get sympathy with those innocent people. I start to hide my tears from other prisoners. It was very difficult for me to understand that there is something like this in the world, because it's against the human nature. I'm a very simple man. I don't believe that there are human beings can do the same to other human beings. It's a long story, but I decide that I want to know more about this big lie. If it's really happened or it's just a movie, which lead me after more than 25 years to make my master's degree about the Holocaust in Bradford University in the UK, Then after that, I start to visit death camps in Germany. So it was like a tool to know your enemy or to know how to defeat them. Then you understand that, in fact, if you know more, you act much better. If you don't know, simply you don't know. And to be honest, I discovered that most of the people prefer not to know because it's very good to agree with yourself, you know. Your story, your narrative, your religion, everything is perfect with you. So why to know something different? When you know something different, you start to suffer because you cannot keep silent. And so you can imagine it's a very long 7 years. They try to kill our humanity every moment. We try to survive every moment because we believe that we are freedom fighters. We need to continue fight to achieve peace and justice to our people. After I get released, already was like 1 year later, it was Oslo Agreement for the first time between PLO and Israel. Like most of the Israelis and the Palestinians, I support this agreement because I want to live in peace like everyone.
And what year was that? What year was that?
I get released in 1992. So 1993, we have this famous shake hands between Rabin and Arafat in the White House. And I start to see the same ex-terrorists, ex-killers, ex-bad people, it means the Palestinian prisoners, which I'm part of, they became generals in the Palestinian security forces. They became the Palestinian Authority, in fact. And they start to meet the Israeli jailers, or generals, who arrest them 15 or 20 years before as partners for peace. PLO at that time, it was exactly as they describe Hamas today, exactly. And in one day, they became freedom fighters. They became partners. So what happened? It's only Israeli and American political decision. That's all. In fact, I start to ask myself why they didn't make this agreement like 10 years before, 20 years before. At least I'm not going to be in jail. And they will save thousands of lives of Israelis and Palestinians on both sides. So, in fact, as I said, we feel that finally we start to live in peace. It's possible. So I get married and I have 6 kids, and those kids become my Palestine, my Eretz Israel, my promised land. This is my target, to protect them, to educate them, to raise them up in a safe place, and that's it. Unfortunately, if you live in Palestine, and even if in Israel, it's not the same level, but still, you have no safe place for yourself. And sometimes if you survive, it's only by chance, which is not a normal life. I start to be active, very active in my society in the Palestinian side without any connection with the other side. Means after I understand that in the end, we need to sit down and talk, even after we defeat them militarily or after they defeat us. So I said, why we need to defeat? Let us sit down and talk now to save these lives. This was my philosophy. Until 2002 and 3, when I heard for the first time about the Israeli refuseniks who refused to serve in the occupied territories or in the Israeli army because they love Israel, because it's against the Jewish values, which is strange for me as a Palestinian. It's against the Zionist values, which unbelievable. You know, Zionist with values, it doesn't work for Palestinians. So it was very strange. I said, who is those people? And when I say that, they always laughing because it's really very strange for us. And 2 years later, in 2005, we had the first meeting between 4 Palestinians. I was one of them with 7 ex-Israeli soldiers and officers. It was the most difficult meeting in my life, and I believe for each one of them, you know, we don't trust each other. Even we hate each other. We did our best to harm each other physically from both sides. And here we are, sit down, the same table, looking in our eyes, and we start to talk, which was very difficult. In fact, we continued to meet for 1 year. We became 300 members, all of them ex-enemies or ex-fighters. So we decided at the end of the year, after we discovered that we are the same. Means, yes, we want to kill each other to achieve the same thing. We want peace and security. And we understand that in spite, you know, Israel with the United States of America, with the rest of the world, against the Palestinians, but we forget to die. We still here, but more blood, more pain, more victims. So we need to change our way to achieve the same goal. Then we create combatants for peace, and our slogan was what Nelson Mandela says. If you want to make peace with your enemy, you need to work with your enemy. Then your enemy become your partner. And this was our goal, in fact, to prove that there is a partner for peace on the other side. We don't need to love each other. We don't need even to like each other, but we need to respect each other as partners. But of course, we are human beings. So of course, we become very close friends, we become brothers, and we became the same side. The other side, people who don't want peace or scared to pay the price of peace from both sides. Until the 16th of January 2007, means 2 years after I lost my daughter, after we create combatants for peace, unfortunately, an Israeli border police teenager shot and killed my daughter. And 2 days later, I joined the parent circle. In fact, 2 days, because one of the co-founders of Combatants for Peace from the Israeli side was a bereaved brother. So he lost his sister, Smadar Hanan. She was 13 years old, to two Palestinian suicide bombers on the 4th of September 1997. I get to know his father in the next meeting, and I believe we fell in love with each other because we discovered that we share the same values. We just respect everyone. We believe everyone have the right to exist and to live in peace and security. And we became, as I said, very close friends. So I joined the parent circle because I know the parent circle 2 years after I lost Abir. And in my worst dream, of course, I don't want to join this amazing group, but was like no choice. And I believe we have, always you have options. If you don't have options, you're a victim. We have options to take revenge, which is very easy. Sometimes it's very human, but it's not the answer. This is the problem. From day one, I said, we need to double our efforts to achieve peace, especially now, at least because I have another 5 kids. I want to protect them. Even to kill the rest of the Jewish on earth and the Muslims together. You will never meet your daughter again. It's over. You need to know how to use this anger, this pain, to create more dialogue, more bridge, or to dig more graves.
And with your daughter's death, what happened after she was killed in 2007? Was there justice? Was anyone held accountable?
Unfortunately for the Palestinians, not me, was the Palestinians claim that it's not a crime to kill a Palestinian in the Israeli system at all. Mm-hmm. And they claim that they never ever saw an Israeli soldier be punished because he killed a Palestinian. Never. Except one soldier 5 years ago in Hebron, because he had been filmed and there is a Jewish Israeli witnesses. So they sent him to jail for a very long time, for 9 months. There is no justice. It means justice is to bring back my daughter, but at least to punish the killer. It never happened. I wasn't in the court, which was, most of the Palestinians, they don't go to court, to the Israeli legal system, because we know them. We know the answer in advance. And I said that while Abir was alive in the hospital, in a press conference, I said, I am not going to give up. I wish Abir will be the last victim between the Israelis and the Palestinians, but I am not going to give up. I will follow those killers in the court even after 100 years. But unfortunately, the Israelis will close the file. And they will say, because lack of evidence. This is what I said exactly. It was broadcast in the Israeli TV. After 4.5 years, the decision of the Israeli Supreme Court was, the mother have the right to know the killer of her daughter. But because it's 4.5 years, and because lack of evidence, we close the file. So every Palestinian know this answer in advance before we died. In spite of that, I said to the same victim, I consider him a victim who killed my daughter. I said to him in the court, you are not a warrior. You are not a hero. You need to know that. You just killed 10 years innocent girl. Don't think you killed a terrorist or a militant. And if you're proud of what you did, you can enjoy your crime. I don't ask for revenge because I don't take revenge from victims. For me, you are not less victim than your victim. But you know what? In any day in your life, if you come to ask me to forgive you, always you will find me there. I will forgive you. But it's not because of yourself at all. It's because of myself, because I really love my daughter very much. And again, because I have another 5 kids, I don't want them to grow up as victims to you. They deserve to live in a different way.
Yes, yes. Well, the other thing that as you're talking reminds me so much of the work that we do in advocating for restorative justice, which urges victim-offender dialogue to occur. And as you just described, forgiveness doesn't always happen, but it often does. And as you just said, often the survivor forgives for himself, herself, because it's critical to the soul.
Exactly. I believe even physically, it's more healthy forgiveness than revenge. Even when you say forgiveness, you know, it's smooth. When you say revenge, it's difficult. But again, you don't need to forgive. It could happen, a reconciliation without forgiveness.
Yes.
But you need to know the truth, what happened. It's a very complicated network in the Israeli army. We were in a process to meet each other in one condition, that he will admit that he killed Abir, and to ask forgiveness. I will forgive him, but not between me and him. He killed Abir in the city. So we need to meet each other in live broadcast. I don't know, CNN or the Israeli channel or Al Jazeera, in front of the world, to admit that in spite, his state said it's not us, we are not responsible, to say, I shot your daughter, and I promise, I will say to him, go, you are free.
And it's so interesting listening to you and having read about your story and others. It's like there's the micro and the macro in this terrible war now, but years of war between the two nations. There's so many victims, and in every case, that kind of healing is needed that you just described. So, how do we apply these principles to the war? You know, when each case needs that kind of healing and accountability and potentially reconciliation.
I believe the Palestinian people, not because I'm a Palestinian, I speak as a human being. They are very great people. You know, when we say war, sometimes it's not a war, it's occupation. The Israeli occupation come to occupy another people's land. Their duty to resist, according to the creator of the Zionism, Jabotinsky, Ze'ev Jabotinsky. He said, oppression creates resistance. It's normal. Now, we are suffering. It's not like the problem to prove that it's occupation, it's war, it's conflict, doesn't matter. People are dying. People are suffering since 75 years. And unfortunately, the Israelis have no idea, and the mass majority of them, they don't want to know, because they never paid the price of this occupation, which is killing another people. And because of this occupation, we fight them, we kill them. And because we care about the life of the human beings, Israelis and Palestinians. What's the difference between Abir and Smadar? Like 10 years and 13 years old. They have nothing to do with the conflict. They are not guilty. What we did before that, and most of the victims, unfortunately, they are women and kids who have nothing to do with any conflict. So I believe, in the end, we need to sit down and talk, and this is our message. Let us sit down now.
Yes.
There is a room for everyone. We prove that we can live together, and here we are in the Peron Circle. Here we are in combatants for peace. We were enemies, real enemies. We fought each other. Today we are brothers. Today we are together against our common enemy. This is the Israeli occupation, which create violence, which create terrorism, which create atrocities, unfortunately. And when you fight back, It's also atrocities. It's very violent. You harm the others after they harm you or before they harm you. And let us see what happened, like in the 7th of October. You know, for the Israelis, it's the first time since the Holocaust. For the Palestinians, it's the last time since the Holocaust. This is our life since 75 years. It brings them back to the horrors of the memories of the Holocaust. And of course, I understand them. And it brings back the Palestinians to the horrors of the Nakba, the destruction of 500 villages in 48. And we continue until today. In spite all this blood, all those victims, it's unbelievable stories. Our brains cannot imagine those atrocities, and we still raise our voice to say there is no alternative of dialogue. We need to talk to each other because no one will disappear. We will continue to exist, Israelis and Palestinians, in one condition. No one will occupy the other. As long as the occupation continues, unfortunately, we will continue to sacrifice the blood of our kids. Israel have the right to live in security, of course. So why they occupied another people's land? They need to end their occupation. Then, only then, they will understand what's the meaning of security, because they try to make peace with many Arab states, even with Sudan, with Emirates, with the Gulf states, with the United States, with Canada, with Australia. It doesn't work for them. It's not going to bring them peace. Only peace with the Palestinians can guarantee their security when we become free. They need to understand that.
So what leaders do you think are doing it right? Who's an emerging leader that you respect on both sides?
You know, I cannot look at the leadership as two leadership. It doesn't work. Even the Palestinian leadership, they are under the occupation. This is what the Palestinian president announced on the TV to the whole world and to the Palestinian people. He cannot move from Ramallah to another city without a permission from the Israelis. So which kind of government? They enter to Ramallah every day, every night. The Israeli soldier arrest anyone, kill anyone, assassinate anyone, and leave. What's the meaning of two governments or two leaders? It doesn't work. If there is an Israeli Yitzhak Rabin, for example, it will be a Palestinian Yasser Arafat, of course. But you need an Israeli leader because they are the occupiers, they are the strongest, they have the key, not the Palestinians. Even if the Palestinian president, the most peaceful president in the world, he cannot move nothing. If the Americans.
So what's your view? I assume I know, but what's your view of Netanyahu?
You know, sometimes I remember this very wise saying that when you discuss, like small minds discuss individuals, average minds discuss events, and great minds discuss ideas. You know, Netanyahu as a person, I believe he's a disaster for the Israelis, not for the Palestinians. Because for us, to be honest, you know, the world consider this is the most extremist and fascist government since 75 years, and especially now with the American leadership. For the Palestinians, believe me, it's the same government. They continue the occupation, confiscated land, arresting us, killing us. It's the same government. Now it became very dangerous for the Israelis themselves.
Yes.
This is why they protest. So I believe Netanyahu sell Israel and sell Palestine just to save his life, to save his career.
Yes.
And it's up to the Israelis. I believe the occupation deserves people like Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Ben-Gvir. This is the occupation, and those are the leaders of the Israeli people, unfortunately.
So the press that we read, and I assume you read as well, is showing that there might be support in changing, Netanyahu, taking him out, but it would be somebody further on the right politically, a military leader that's even more of a strong man than Netanyahu. That's what we read. Is that what you read too?
Exactly. So what's the difference? So keep Netanyahu with his corruption, with his, I don't know. I don't care. It's not my business. But I said, as like, let me say, not a Palestinian, I will feel shame if my leader, someone like this leader, who legitimize corruption as law. I cannot imagine someone like Ben Gvir, for example. He's a terrorist according to the Israeli law, not according to me. A minister of the police, it's unbelievable. You can imagine. Smotrich, the same. And those are the leaders of the Israeli people. It's unbelievable. So if they change Netanyahu, Yahoo will come and Natan will come after that. It doesn't work. Until the Americans said, that's it. It's enough.
You think
only the American?
Do you think
only
so?
The Americans. You know, and the Americans said that. So the problem sometimes when we repeat their announcements, we become radical people. This is what the Americans say. The American president himself. And yesterday he repeated.
President Biden.
Yeah, if there is no Israel, we will invent Israel. Why? It's a good investment, $3 billion each year to protect our interests. And look at the Republicans today and since. This is the American policy. And they didn't hide it. If there is no Israel, Russia will control the Arab world. This is for them, the politics. Imagine I paid the price of this policy and I have no idea about this policy. I'm a very simple villager in my field. I just want to grow up my kids to give them the best education. And I cannot make this because of the Iranian nuclear weapon and because of the Holocaust 75 years. And I don't know anything about those events for the normal human beings. So this is how you deal with Israel as a policeman. You feed them with money and you order them to die. They know that. It's forbidden for Israel to make peace. Otherwise, there is a problem with the American policy.
Right. Right. Well,
Can America impose peace on the Palestinians and the Israelis? Of course. It's the greatest country in the world. America is the whole world. Everyone follow United States of America. So please invest in our peace, not in our blood.
Right. And as you're talking, and I'm thinking about this in terms of leaders, it really does seem that peace will come from people like you and those who are speaking out for peace and dialogue, and perhaps not from those who are elected. That's something that my organization, Restorative Justice International, has seen worldwide in terms of violent wars, whether it's Ukraine or Israel, Palestinian, the conflict. But it seems like it will be people coming up from almost the grassroots, you know, the organization that you work with and Parents Circle, Families Forum, and others. Do you think that's possible? Does that give you hope?
It's absolutely yes, of course. It's very necessary. Otherwise, even the politicians, when they sign peace agreement and we are not ready as people, it will be no peace. And this is exactly what happened after Oslo Agreement, because it's done between politicians and the people, they are not ready. So our job is to prepare both sides, Israelis and Palestinians, to start to hear the word reconciliation, to live side by side, to respect each other, and to appear as examples that we can live together, to prove that this is our job, and which is very important, very necessary. But in the end, we need a political decision to sign a peace agreement. It's the job of the politicians. But without people like us who prepare the ground, will never succeed. Exactly. So, of course, I agree, of course.
Exactly.
It's very necessary what we are doing.
Let me bring this in, too. I think I sent you a message about this. I have a book on Sulha. And maybe, I don't know, can you see Sulha. It on? Is it right
Sulha,
here?
Yes.
Doesn't show. That's it. And it's, for our listeners, it's a Palestinian traditional peacemaking process. And the book that I have is from Elias Jabrour. And and I met him actually at a conference many years ago in Washington, D.C., and I realized how much Sulha, did I say it right?
Sulha.
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 How
Yes.
much it's needed now, and how much it reflects restorative justice and peacemaking. Don't you agree with that?
You know, Sulha, it's between two individuals who have a problem. They will sit down in a specific place between two tribes and between two states. Well, it's
Yes.
also, it's the same principle. But Sulha need to be very clear. Equal sides. Even if you are bigger than me, stronger than me, you need to consider me and to respect me.
Yes.
In this case, unfortunately, we are not ready. We don't respect each other, which is the main issue. And I talk about the Israeli side, unfortunately. They cannot see us. You know,
As
we are
human.
absolutely, we are suffering from discrimination, but a very special kind of discrimination. Not because because I am limping, because I have polio, not because I don't have blue eyes, not because they cannot see us on the ground, not as a human being. They cannot see us physically.
Yes.
As Arabs. This is their land. This is their dream, which is a very difficult discrimination. So imagine you need to make a reconciliation process with someone, consider you, if you behave, maybe he will think that he will take you as a slave. What? So it's not equal at all.
Right.
Yes, they are minority, but those minority are in power now. They lead the government. And Netanyahu, one of them, Smotrich, one of them, Ben Gvir, one of them, and they say that loudly. This is the problem. If you think that the Palestinians like the animals, someone said, no, I cannot say the animals. No, perfect. They are less than animals.
Okay.
So you can imagine. But of course, again, it's a minority, but this minority are in power. So our job is not to give up, because those people is a disaster of Israel.
Yes.
Those people is the reason of anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm.
Those people is the reason of self-hating Jew, whatever they claim. They have a problem with us. They cannot claim that I am anti-Semite or self-hating Jew because I am not a Jew. So we still fight against those slogans with love. With people who are suffering on the ground, and they show from their own experience that those people are minority. We are not going to give up because of those voices. We need to continue working for reconciliation after any peace agreement between those politicians. I hope it will be very soon. Then both people will be ready. It's exactly after Nelson Mandela release from jail. You know, the whole world expect next day to see 15 million or 5 million white people died. It didn't happen. They start a reconciliation process, but it's not after or before his release. It's many, many years before. From both sides, they prepare the South African people to start to live maybe in a reconciliation process.
Yes. Well, in conclusion, why don't you quickly describe Parent Circle, how big it is, and what the organization does, and then your concluding remarks.
You know, the Parent Circle, we are more than 700 families, Israelis and Palestinians, who lost their beloved one from both sides. And we want to raise up our voice to say no more blood, because we have no fear, because the worst already happened to us. It's a matter of responsibility. Each one of us love his kids. We don't want to continue their way. It means we don't want to take revenge, because we don't want to create another victim and to prepare the next victim from our side. We believe we are not the first or the last conflict on earth. We look back to the American history, Canadian history, Australian history, South Africa, Northern Ireland, whatever, the very bloody history in Europe. Today, look at them, so we can do it. Always I said that the Palestinians didn't kill 6 million Israelis, which is a fact. The Israelis didn't kill 6 million Palestinians yet, which is a fact. But there is a German ambassador in Tel Aviv, and there is an Israeli ambassador in Berlin. So you can imagine, also we can do it. The level of blood didn't arrive to 6 million victims. So what happened? We can overcome our very bloody history and painful only when we have a very brave leader who take us towards the future. And we understand that past is past. It's over. It's very necessary to learn the past in order to build our future so that we can appreciate when we live in peace and security and justice, all of us, which is we deserve as human beings. We have a lot of activities. We have a very strong women groups. We have a summer camp for our kids and their friends. We have ambassadors for peace from the new generations who will continue our message after we pass away, because we have a very long way to work among the Israelis and the Palestinians. Our message is international. It's not only for the Israelis and Palestinians. We want to prove that we can use our pain in a different way, not only for revenge. And no one born as a killer. And Israelis and Palestinians, in fact, they are victims to the same occupation and victims to the great country's policies sometimes. So we can do it. We will do it. And we will one day we will live in peace and respect both Israelis and Palestinians.
Well, thank you so much for being here today with me. And as I said, I see you as one of the leaders. And we will continue to work with you as much as we can with Parent Circle. And we'll be having Robbie on, actually, Damelin, in the next couple of weeks to tell her story as well. Thank you so much, Bassam.
Thank you, Lisa. Please.
Good. And this is Lisa Ray for RJI.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the RJI podcast series with Lisa Ray. Stay in touch and support our work at restorativejusticeinternational.com.